Hi, and welcome back to Code for Couples. Today I am talking with Debbie Ortiz, who is the founder of Code 9 Project, as well as the producer and director of Code 9, Officer Needs Assistance, which is a fabulous film about PTSD. So welcome, Debbie. I appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I got connected with you because I think I found your Instagram and or you followed me or something. I don't know how that happened, but and I was like, what's this Code 9 thing? And I looked into it and I thought, holy cow, this is totally something that would benefit first responders and their spouses and their families. Tell me a little bit about what inspired you. Tell me a little bit about Code 9 first, and then let's talk about what inspired you to start it.
Okay, so Code 9 Projects, I'm one of the co-founders to a nonprofit organization, a national nonprofit organization that works with first responders, families, command staff, and we bring workshops, training to departments. We have a 2-day first responder training, a 1-day family training, and a 2-day command staff training. We also have now a peer support training, and we also have a reduction of movement and stress training. So basically, our goal is to educate first responders on the effects of stress and trauma on their bodies. So really give them the scientific, knowledge that they need to know that this is normal. You guys are in a stress career. You guys and girls are in stress careers. You signed up for stress careers, and you need to know how your body is responding to that and how the best way. We give them tools to help them deal with the stress and trauma that they receive on the job. Now, that's our goal. And our goal is to, really, how did I get into this? My husband is a retired New York State trooper who served 22 years. With the state police and also with the Drug Enforcement Task Force. And he served his 22 years and retired. And it was, there was some stuff happening prior to his retirement that I really wasn't paying too much attention to. Had I been given the information, had somebody given me the information like the state police or any organization said, these are the things to look out for, I would have been better prepared for what was about to come. And pretty much within a year of his retirement, I kid you not when I tell you, it's as if I went to sleep and woke up in a nightmare.
Wow.
It was horrifying. Just, I can't even thinking back, I don't even know how we pulled through that, but we did. So it was in a desperate attempt to get help. He was finally diagnosed with PTSD, which was, yay, finally, not that I wanted my husband to have PTSD, but there was an answer to what was happening.
Yes.
And so at least I knew what we were combating at that point. And in an attempt to find help for us, and now mind you, this was 10 years ago. I started this 10 years ago.
So 2007?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the whole journey with him. And well, his PTSD was diagnosed before that, but, just like finally getting diagnosed and then looking for help was right around 2007, and I couldn't find anything. And what I did find was that there were many families suffering the way we were.
Yes.
And that really upset me. I became irate.
You told me when we talked on the phone before this, you were like, I got pissed.
Yes.
So you got so angry. Yes. And in that anger, taking action.
That's what it was. It was like, I got to do something with this. It's not right. How can they allow this to happen? And when I say they, I mean the departments. And, this is not about, saying shame on you to the departments. It's about just acknowledging the problem and let's address it. And I get what they're up against. I get what the departments are up against. I get that, it is about money and, those who are going to claim they have PTSD, who don't have PTSD. There's a lot involved when it comes to this, trying to prove that there's a mental component going on in their work.
You know, and that's something that, as my therapist standpoint, you know, people say to me, well, maybe they were just, it's a false cry, or like they're just getting attention or something like that. You mentioned, like, how do we know that this is really PTSD? Who cares?
Right.
You know, the fact is, you know, one of the things I say is, would you rather take action? Like, if somebody threatens suicide, would you rather them be dead or pissed off at you? Would you rather invest some money or so? Anyway, go ahead. Yes.
No, that's absolutely right. The departments care. And that's why I'm saying this. It's about money. It really is about money. But things have changed. So anyway, so in an attempt to, like, you know, bring light to the problem that I'm not talking about just hundreds. I'm talking about thousands upon thousands of first responders are dealing with some kind of stress issue. You know, stress, anxiety, depression, PTSD. Just and our goal is to try to intervene before it becomes PTSD or suicide. Our goal is to educate everyone so that they never reach that point. You know, it's about prevention. It's about prevention, right? It's about giving them tools and the education they need, giving the families. It is so important for the families to get this information because they're the first ones who see it. Yes. And so if armed with the right information and the right tools, then we try and hope that they can, you know, at least I didn't know. So I didn't know how to handle PTSD. It's not an easy thing to handle. You take it personal. You know, you say, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? Why is he behaving this way? Why is she behaving this way? And it's not a personal thing. It's PTSD, and it's not an easy thing to deal with. So the film was my way of saying, hey guys, look, there's a problem. We need to address it. And officers are killing themselves, firefighters, EMTs, correctional officers, dispatchers. They're killing themselves, or they're living with PTSD, or they're going off into retirement, living their lives in pure hell, and nobody's doing a damn thing about it. And so that's where the film came in. That took 5 years to make, and it was it was made with money from the first responder community. We raised $65,000 online from the first responder community, that they're the ones that said, we want this film to be made.
Oh, wow. I saw, when I watched the film at the end, there's just that scrolling of people, of donors. And I'm like, holy crap. It was an act. It was a outpouring, not just of love, but like a call to action from all of these people, that it's so important that people understand the impact of, and it's not, I think it's also important to say that it's not just acute trauma. It's not just a single incident. It's the chronic nature of trauma. It's the fact of, I talked to my husband about this, in the sense of, like, when you go to work, and if somebody was to put a screw in your head and just turn it a quarter turn every day, you don't really notice the slow slide and the impact of chronic trauma until it's like boom. And as a family member, as a spouse, you just kind of see these things happen. You don't connect it to, oh wow, this is the long-term impact of what's going on in their world. And your film did that so well. It highlights these stories of how the family, or how the spouses were being impacted, and how the first responders are just holding on to stuff and maybe not really talking the way, because they don't feel like they can. They don't feel like it's safe. And they feel the shame that kind of goes with that too.
There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of shame. My husband's, that's still stuff. We're talking, my husband's retired now 15 years, and, we still, he's much better. He's gotten the help. It took a long time for him to accept the fact that he needed to get help. That was, he's old school cop, it's kind of state trooper, I don't need any help. Well, guess not, baby, you do. And so finally he did get the help, and he's still getting the help, and we're still getting the help. And I'm so incredibly grateful to have met Brandy Lee Baker, who's the person who created the workshops for Code 9 Project. Her work is phenomenal. You know, there are a lot of resources out there, and I want to just say that, and we're an organization that believes in all the resources. You know, we're about, because with my own husband and others, it's not about one answer. There's no one answer here for PTSD. There's many answers. You know, you got to find what works for you. Therapy, meditation, yoga, medication, whatever it is that you need to do, exercise. You know, there's all kinds of things that you can do to help you deal with triggers and flashbacks, and you know, especially therapy. We think that every first responder should have a therapist on board. I mean,
there's actually some research going around that says that just having one therapeutic session a year as a first responder makes a huge difference. And so that's awesome. And having a tribe, I call it a tribe, but I mean, there's a tribe built in that if they would just talk about it, it would be okay. I have a first responder. I have several that I work with. And sometimes I say, what do you do? And they're like, I just let people know, oh, I had a bad dream. Oh, okay. And that's all there is to it. It's like, yeah.
They don't realize it's just about saying it. Just releasing it. You know, releasing that energy, you know, and what we teach them in the workshop, that energy that's contained within them. Just release it. Say, you know, it's okay. You know, we talk about going home and talking to your spouses. You don't have to say, oh, I saw this dead body and I saw this. I had a terrible day. I really need some time for myself. I need to decompress. This has nothing to do with you. Learning how to communicate that, and for the spouse to understand that it's okay, and giving them that space that they can, you know, instead of what's the matter with you? What are you doing? You know, it's like what I did. What the hell's the matter with you? It was bad. I mean, it was bad. How does he know what's the matter with him? He didn't even know. He didn't know. So anyway, I mean, it's really about, my God, it's about education. It's about prevention. And we are committed. We are truly, truly committed to this. And, you know, some people really go their whole lives not knowing why they're here. I really believe that this is what God has put in front of me. And, you know, how do we take something that's so horrific? There's so many. I've talked to so many, especially wives that husbands have committed suicide, and it could have, it really truly, I'm not saying all of them could have been prevented, but most of them could have been prevented. Because, I mean, these officers were asking for help before deaths, and they didn't get it. They didn't get it.
What kind of things should a spouse look for when you say they were looking for help and they didn't get it? What kind of things can a spouse look for, or partner look for?
Well, I can tell you that some of these officers truly were asking their departments for help. I mean, truly.
Verbally asking
for help. They even have, I mean, some of the women have actual paperwork where the husbands put in reports that saying, I think I'm suffering with, or they're seeing therapists, and the therapists are telling them that they're suffering with this, and they're telling the departments, and and on one occasion where, they promoted one guy, and gave him more responsibility. Or, and so it's like, I mean, that's clear cut. That's like clear cut. And so, I mean, I think a family at that point needs to say, listen, what's more important here? You need, obviously they're not listening to you, and the most important thing is taking care of yourself. You got to take care of yourself. You have got to know that it's, they love being officers, and that's the hard part. They don't want to leave the being an officer, but there are just sometimes that, that needs to happen. Like my husband, even after he retired, being a cop became his identity. And they need to understand that it is not the only thing that they are. Their husbands, their wives, wives and moms and dads and sisters and brothers. And, being a cop is not their only identity. And that took a long time for my husband to realize. So other things are, like for my husband, it was hypervigilance. He was always on alert. He was really bad. that there was a conspiracy theory, that everything was a conspiracy, paranoia, intense paranoia. For instance, he was a state trooper and he was working with the DEA, and he was always in his car, right? A state trooper driving his car. My husband started going out for rides for hours in his car because that's where he felt most comfortable.
Okay. Yeah.
So literally, behavior like that, it's kind of like, okay, there's something wrong, but what do we do to address it, right? Now you're stuck with the fact that now you kind of figure something's going on, and now your husband doesn't or wife doesn't want to hear, I need help. Well, what can you do? How do you help them see that? Well, I tell you what I did. And, sometimes it's going to work and sometimes it isn't, but I got help.
I can't tell you how many times I have partners coming into my office and thinking, well, maybe if I come in, then I can get either help on how to deal with this situation, how to cope with it, how do I think differently about it, or is there something I can take back and maybe explain to my spouse as well. Yes, totally.
So I got help for myself, and once I started changing the way I was dealing with stuff, this I'll tell you seriously, guys, I kid you not, it will, once you change the way things are going, the reaction is going to change. And dealing with stuff on a different level is going to, he's going to be, he was kind of like, what's going on here? And I said, well, I'll tell you, sweetheart, I love you and I really want you to get better. But you have, sometimes you have to say, put your foot down and say, and I had to. Now, I'm not saying this is for everyone, okay? I'm not giving any therapeutic.
And every marriage is different. Every person is different. You have to do what worked for you. So what worked for you?
I told him I'm leaving.
Okay.
Help or I'm out of here. And my husband, for him it's about action. And I knew that I couldn't do it anymore, and I wasn't going to let my daughter be a part of this way of living.
The behavior.
It was horrible. My daughter ended up in therapy. I ended up in therapy. The whole family ended up in therapy, but he did get help. I packed my stuff. I moved out. And was I afraid? Was I afraid he was going to hurt himself? Absolutely. 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 That was really hard. Really, really hard. But we got through it. And that's, like I said, that's what I had to do for him. I unfortunately, there have been, just situations where, wives or husbands won't leave because they're afraid of the spouse hurting themselves. And there have been actually incidences where that has happened. So, it's not, this is hard. This is really, really hard stuff.
Where did the tide turn for you? After you left, how did the tide turn for the two of you to be able to see something positive? How did it change?
Well, when I left, I physically, left and, told him that he needs to get some help. And after some continued denial, he eventually did. He reached out for help, and I told him, he did this kind of thing, the whole codependent kind of thing that we had going on. He was like, seriously, he was like, oh, you make the calls for me. Can you, I'm like, no, you need to make the calls. You need to find the place to go. I will not do that for you. I did it in the beginning. I gave him a ton of places to go, and he didn't take it. But guess what? Now it's up to you. You can do this. And he did. And he had to go several rounds of different treatments. It took a while. But the fact was that I just needed to see that he was making an effort. And then I decided that I wanted to be okay.
Yeah.
I wanted to be family. And I'm willing to go through the fire with you as long as you're doing it as well. And
doing the work.
That's right. So that was pretty much it. And it took a few things. He went to West Coast Post-Trauma Retreat, which was a great, great place forever indebted to those guys. Because do you know about them? West
You were
Coast?
telling me about them, and I
Yeah.
think that's somebody I need to bring on to maybe talk to.
Oh, they're amazing. Actually, one of our Code 9 ambassadors is one of the facilitators at West Coast, but they're all first responders who all have dealt with some kind of, stress, anxiety, PTSD, depression, and they do this voluntarily. They have clinicians there. It's a 5-day intensive program.
Wow.
And it was really one of the things that really worked for my husband, because he really felt that they understood what he was going through.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And how long have y'all been married now?
We are now married 16 years. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Congratulations.
Second marriage for both of us. Yeah. And we're still together. And I sometimes look back and go, wow, how did we do that? But love, understanding, education really, really can, but it has to come from both. It just can't be decided. And it's really important for spouses to understand that. Yeah.
Go back and talk about the film a little bit for me. So I'll tell you that, I watched the film. It's a full-length film. It was like an hour and 20 minutes, I believe.
Yeah.
And that film, initially I thought, oh, an hour and 20 minutes. I just sat there with my bag of Smart Pop and just ate my whole bag of Smart Pop and had my Coke. It was riveting in the sense of like the stories that are shared as a part of some of these people's journey, men and women that you have on the film.
Yeah, it was hard though. It was hard getting women. It was hard getting women for the film. That was, it's tough enough for women on the job. The last thing they want to do is say they're struggling on the job. So getting women and getting even, officers of, Hispanic, African American. We couldn't get, I wanted a diverse cast of officers, and it was very hard. But every single one of those officers, also getting an active duty officer, I could not get them to talk to us because they were afraid of losing their jobs.
Sure, totally get that.
Yeah, so most of them are retired officers who were either lost their jobs or left on, medically retired, and they were incredibly brave for coming forward. Most of them were telling their stories for the first time ever during the film. I'm incredibly grateful for all of them. They're doing the strides that some of them have made are incredible, and they are working with people now, and they're helping others. And to watch the growth from the time we shot the film to now is just a beautiful thing to watch for many of them. But finding them was hard. Getting them to trust me was hard. But once I earned their trust, they were able to sit. And our goal in the film was to show the progression of, why they wanted to become officers, and the progression of accumulative stress. So, my husband didn't deal with one traumatic incident. Most officers don't, and that's why it's not recognized or addressed, because if you were part of, something like 9/11 or, mass
or Vegas.
Or Vegas, yeah, exactly.
Or here in Dallas, the Dallas mass. I mean, yes, there's a lot of shootings going on, and I think that's part of the problem is that departments, I think the system as a whole minimizes like we were talking about, the chronic nature of the small incidences. And I think there's also a comparison that goes on there. Well, it wasn't this, it was just this.
Right.
But that minimization, their own self-minimization.
That's right.
Of it.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It still has the impact.
Yeah, it sure does. And what's impactful to one person is not impactful to another. So to judge, what do you mean that bothered you? That was nothing. You don't do that. They need to be there for one another. Don't minimize another person's pain ever. We talk about that in the training as well. Sarcasm and belittling another person's pain is a horrifying thing to do. You have no idea. Asking each other, "Are you okay?" is important, and need to get used to be able to do that, to be there for one another, because they don't realize that something that simple can help somebody's life. Something that simple. Do you need to talk, brother or sister? Do you want to, yeah, that was tough. Just
I think of it, we keep saying, one of the things, one of the things that I hear in that though too is that people, the officers, the brethren that they have, or sisterhood that they have, whatever you want to call that mix, needs to understand that what triggers one doesn't trigger another. We all have our own stories. We all have our own triggers, and nobody knows your stuff.
That's right.
But you're going in, and just like in a marriage, you have stuff, your husband has stuff, together you have stuff. And sometimes stuff gets triggered because of something that happens. And one person might be saying, what's the big deal? But this is bringing something up from within, or this is on top of something else that I've already experienced. And so, yes, that minimization. I think another aspect of this is really important, is that the concept of being weak, I'm making air quotes. People can't see me making air quotes with you, but the concept of being weak is crap. However, in the culture, it's like, well, I've got to be strong. And having any kind of weakness is a huge red flag. And so
we think that asking for help is more courageous than anything.
And that's the point I wanted to make. It is that it is not weak to ask for help. It's not weak to say, woo, that was a hard one. Here's what I keep thinking about or ruminating on. And just opening up a conversation and having a place where you can just have a conversation. It doesn't need to be like overly emotional, like you were saying.
Right.
It can just be verbalizing it and kind of letting out. I think of it as letting the steam out of a pressure cooker a little bit.
That's right. That's absolutely right. So going back to the film, it was about showing the progression of how this can happen. Reaching a point of, where you're not getting help at all. The film shows the perfect example of getting no help at all. So you continue and what those effects can lead to. And, I don't, it's a very tough film to watch, but the film is about hope. It is about every single one of those officers. We talk at the end about, we don't talk, we show what they've done to get help, and the variation of things, getting drug and alcohol, rehabilitation, meditation, therapy, counseling, family doctors, medication, writing, poetry, exercise, all the things that these amazing men and women are doing to help deal with what they've gone onto the job, and just giving the departments the information that not taking care of your officers is costing you more money than taking care of them.
Sing it, sister.
I mean, come on, it doesn't take a genius to see that, but I gotta tell you that I know there are small changes. The change is happening. Departments are calling us all the time. We're going to departments, we're bringing our workshops, we're bringing the film, and we highlight those departments. We want people to say, hey, look what this department's doing. Good for them, so it's going to take a while. Changing a culture is not an easy thing, but, there's people like us just getting together and spreading the word. So I truly do thank you for this opportunity, seriously, because it's about coming together.
It is. If people want to watch the film, how do they go to watch the film?
Sure. It's on DVD right now. We're actually with a distributor, so we only can offer it via DVD right now. But you can go to code9project.org, which is our nonprofit website, which you can see all the work that we're doing there. And to get more information on the film itself, there's code9film.com. And that talks just really about the film. And we've won several awards. Talks about our, we're going into the Orlando Film Festival on Tuesday. We're going to be screening there.
Oh, how exciting. So, okay, so if people are in Atlanta and listening, where would they need to go?
It's Orlando.
Oh, Orlando. Okay, Orlando, Florida. Got it.
Yeah, so it's the Orlando Film Festival. But we do have our Code9 page, which is Code9 Project on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter, Code9 Project. We post all of our upcoming workshops on there. We post all of our, screenings. Anyone interested in talking to us more about workshops or doing screenings in their area, code9project.org. They can reach us, all the information's on there.
Very good. Very good. And I'll put a link in the description of the podcast as well.
Yes.
Okay. So one thing that I like to ask of all of my spouses in particular is that if you could offer, if somebody would have said, hey, here's this piece of advice going forward, what do you wish somebody would have told you walking into a relationship with an officer?
With an officer, that's a really good question. Wow, that's a good one. I want to say is that you're walking into a very unique relationship. And with that relationship comes unique stressors.
Yeah.
And educate yourself about what is needed to keep your family, your relationship strong, and do whatever you can to open communication between you and your spouse, because it is a unique situation. It really is. I'm not saying that bankers don't have stress or that but there's these amazing brave men and women see things that nobody has seen. And I don't even think human beings are really whatever. The one piece of advice would be to understand that you're getting into a relationship with unique stressors, and that understanding that and dealing with that right from the beginning will be incredibly helpful.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank
Debbie
you.
from code9project.org. I appreciate you being online with me today.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And thank you for everything. And if you want to check out her website, please do, code9project.org, or the film is thecode9film.com. And it is totally worth the DVD if you get the DVD, to get some, maybe some wives and officers together and watch it together, maybe even have a discussion. It is a very powerful film, and I encourage everybody to watch it. So thank you so much, and we'll stay in touch. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks. Bye-bye.